I'm here to talk about Curiva. At Curiva, we believe real-time diagnosing is the best approach to cervical cancer prevention. I'm Adi Sleem, I'm the founder and CEO. I want you to think about here, who in the room has known a person has had any kind of cancer? And who in the room has had a relative, a friend who has been significantly, like their quality of life has been significantly impacted? Well, for women, that's so much greater because it impacts fertility, it impacts the way in which the diagnosis can lead to mortality faster, especially in the case of ovarian cancer. And I just want to show that this is a global problem for cervical. It's beyond the United States. It is still killing over 300,000 women a year. And to me, that's just not number we should be withstanding any longer. So Curiva's mission is really to cross that out, or at the very least diminish it. In this particular slide, I want to show your bring your attention to the 5-year prevalence, which means that there's over 11 million women worldwide that are still afflicted, not just for the 5 years, but continuing on. And therefore, early detection is key. So DIA-Patch is our solution. We're working on commercializing DIA-Patch. It's a wearable diagnostic for detecting cervical cancer as the primary area of indication, and then expanding into other sectors such as ovarian and in vitro. The patch has it's a 3-layer component. I have our 3D printed prototype here, which I've just in our lab been printing on a daily basis for different tests. And so pretty much with our product, the woman wears it on the pelvic region externally, and this is because of access to the type of sample we're collecting via microneedles, which I'll explain in a minute, and therefore makes it non-invasive. The app is also paired to, and the wearable is paired to a companion app called the LE app. So this is enhancing patient education by increasing compliance. It's streamlining physician workflows so that the physician can be seeing 2 or 3 patients in a team care approach at during the same clinical visit. And it's providing ease of referral. So imagine sitting in your clinical visit, knowing your results right away, and with your doctor, knowing who are the 3 or 5 gynecologic oncologists in your area that you should be seeing. Of course, this would easily integrate into the electronic health record system, and the results are given as early as 30 minutes with high specificity that is reflected here, over 99.5%, and more importantly, the highest sensitivity compared to other tests on the market at 98. So a little bit about microneedles. We have a collaboration where we have showcased that we're able to extract 500 microliters of interstitial fluid, which is our liquid biopsy and the fluid of interest for detecting these biomarkers within the 30-minute of application, which is the time period where the results will be given. We have a materials transfer agreement, and we're going to licensing agreement with this group as it stands. And I'm continually testing these 100 or 200 units of microneedles with the 3D printed patches. Here, we're just showcasing, by the way, these are extremely small, about 5 by 5 millimeter. So to give you an idea, in the patch, that little square is where the microneedles sit. So they do not affect at all safety or efficacy, and they also have the capacity to do drug delivery. So in terms of the diagnoses, we're also working with a collaborator to integrate the way in which it is detected. And so here's an example with a Zika virus that has already been demonstrated while our results are incoming for the various biomarkers that we have a panel of 5 to 7 for cervical cancer that have already been clinically validated. And so this synthetic riboregulator assay is essentially a switch. So imagine right now, if you were to picture a COVID or pregnancy test, you get a yes or no, plus or minus, or a color change. What's really unique about this assay is that it allows us the capability to digitize it, because we are detecting 15 to 25 nucleotides. And unless all of those bind, similar to a Velcro, the switch will not turn on and be able to give a signal, which is then therefore translated into digital manner. So the group already has demonstrated sensitivity, specificity, and the fast results. As low as 1 femtomolar of RNA can be detected. And I would argue here that as early as 15 minutes. So there's room for improvement, and that's the way that Curiva is headed. Our fantastic team is actually based out of Chicago and the New Haven, Connecticut, and New York City area. So I came up with this idea while doing research on ovarian cancer at Yale University under the mentorship of Dr. Gilmore here, who's one of our top advisors, and he's now running an NIH center at the CS Mott Center in Detroit. My right-hand person, Dr. Wang, is our CSO, and she's an assistant professor at Northwestern Medicine, where, by the way, is the site where the #1 clinical trials for gynecologic oncology happen in the country. And we have Scott Kozak, who's our Chief Growth Officer. I know we're little, but he has a ton of business experience, and I'm a first-time entrepreneur, so learning a lot from Scott, getting many deals closed, and bringing on board additional investments. Tony Rascio has helped put this team together and will continue to bring on board anyone else who's needed at a fractional, as a fractional employee, of course. And we have a retired PwC partner who also happens to be our CFO, and he's our primary angel investor. We have an additional 2 doctors who have invested, Dr. Gretz and Dr. Gouda. Dr. Gretz is with Mount Sinai, and Dr. Gouda has his own independent private practice and medical innovations company. In addition to them, we have 2 fantastic women who sit on the boards of 2 various funds, Golden Seed, some of you have heard of, and Swan Impact Fund between New York City and Austin, Texas. Which means that beyond saving lives, there's an opportunity for a very large market, above $14 billion. Bottom lining the numbers here, if we were to impact testing for 141 million women at the lowest cost of $100, we would already be making a huge difference. We validated the concept of our early adopters. Who are we getting this product to initially? And that is the SIN2 and SIN3 early detection of cervical cancer. So SIN2 or SIN3 is cervical intraepithelial neoplasias. Try saying that 3 times. And it's when there's a lesion before it becomes a full tumor in the cervix. Of these over 150 interviews, we also were able to identify that any and everybody would pay double, if not triple, the amount of funds to detect ovarian cancer. But the limitations for getting the right biomarkers for this particular disease are trickier, since ovarian cancer just has a recurring mutational approach where it's just out-competing therapies and out-competing any organ, essentially. And that's also what leads it to have higher mortality rates. From there, we would expand into the breast cancer patient space. So the patch could also be worn locally over the breast area. And we've also had some recent interest from the pediatric space. So indeed, we are a platform product. The focus of cervical cancer here, outside of the customer discovery, came after doing a deep analysis of the competitive landscape. So as you might know, Roche is a leading company that does the pap smears and the colposcopies and provides reagents and equipment for that. Syntec Plus is their one test for SIN and pap. So it does both the pap smear first and then the SIN. Diagnoses, if it's detected, that takes about 2 days, and they're not non-invasive. Then we have Biop Medical, which has created this micro colposcope, which, as the name says it, even though it's micro, it still needs to be inserted into the cervix, and therefore also not non-invasive. But furthermore, the assay time that we have is much faster, and as I have highlighted, the specificity and sensitivity are stronger. And Zylico and OncoSolutions are basically creating similar probes, but for the screening sector, which is not what we're after at all. We are a triage tool at early detection of cervical cancer and beyond. Our go-to-market strategy is initially to have research use only sales by contracting with cancer centers and providing data behind the biomarkers, and then contracting and selling that data to mid-sized biotechnology companies. Our second approach is to do product reimbursement sales once we have reimbursement approval and, of course, FDA or CE mark approval, and start selling via insurance and payers, so Kaiser Permanente, Anthem, etc. Financial projections showcase a really strong revenue growth, and I would like to point out that we are already thinking of the different 3 products and how each of these will staggerly be integrated into the business of Curiva. So we're starting with the impact of just shy of 1,000 patients by running our initial pilots for research use only settings. But our goal is really to get to impact 10x that, 100x that. So imagine by year 5 in 2029, having at least 2 products, possibly 3 on the market, and impacting the lives of 1 million, shy of 1 million patients. The investment opportunity here is quite large. We've had strategic conversations already with strategics like Roche, Organon, Hologic, Exact Sciences, Photocure, and they all have really validated the need for this product, and they just want to know when it'll be on the market. I want to highlight here, due to our revenue projections and expected exit price based on product-based valuation of other comparables, you would be getting close to a 7x to 10x return on your investment. Right now, we're fundraising our seed round for $2 million, and these are the areas where the money will be invested. Our goal is to get our prototype towards a minimum viable product that would be creating the first 100 minimum viable product units that'll be used in the first clinical pilot study. It'll also allow us to get into regulatory, expand our IP portfolio, do further feasibility studies, and get that MVP towards a approval point before we begin phase 1 clinical trial. From there, we would fundraise $5 million for Series A to get to beta product and additional clinical studies. And by 2026, we seek to be manufacturing, having the full product launch, and our first $1 million in revenue. At Curiva, we believe real-time diagnosing is the best approach to cervical cancer prevention. And the patch is the non-invasive, high accuracy first step to get us there.